What's up everyone, my name is Tsepo Mavimbela and let's get right into the video. So I used to do these videos called Mindset Monday and they used to focus mostly on entrepreneurs, but I'm changing it up a little bit and bringing it back. And in today's video, I actually still want to continue with the theme that I used to have back in the day where I talk about financial growth and growing as a business person or as a person who is in the corporate industry or who is one that's going through their journey from a job and elevating their careers, okay? So the one thing that I actually want to focus on when it comes to this video in particular is the fact that anything that you put your mind on is possible, but with it being possible, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy. And obviously I'm saying something that you all already know, but I can relay a story. And before I relay the story being about myself, I actually just watched a video this very morning by Penson Mlocho, so I'll link it in the description. And he was telling a story of a guy who he met in his school when he was still a teacher. And basically what happened with this man is that when he was 12 years old, living with his mom and his brother was in Gauteng, he was forced to drop out of school so that he could take care of his mom because unfortunately her mom was HIV positive and her state was getting worse and worse. So at the age of 12, he actually had to drop out of school and take care of his mother. And then the mother obviously passed on, unfortunately, and his brother invited him to Gauteng and then they stayed together. And it sounds that they stayed in a shanty town, in a small shack, and they were hustling, this going from Limpopo all the way to Gauteng. And his brother was working at a gas station, petrol station. And he got a job at the petrol station, and the owner of that petrol station had a mom who was very old and she needed someone to take care of her, but unfortunately she got rid of almost everyone that had to take care of her because she was just being utterly rude. And here is a 12-year-old boy and his brother tells the owner that, well, my brother has done something similar of the sort, so you could actually take him. And he took him and he took care of the petrol station's mother. Although the mother was Afrikaner, only spoke Afrikaner and was also racist, he had to take that all in. He was forced to take that all in because it gave him a bit of a better life because they moved from the shack to living at the back room of this house, the owner of the petrol station. Fast forward, obviously I'm summarizing the story as quickly as I can because I want you to go watch that video. Fast forward, the owner of the garage had to sell the petrol station. And I actually skipped a part. Before they sold the petrol station, this young boy who was taking care of this woman found out, and not very clearly on what happened, but his brother had actually also passed on. So now you can see he's left alone on earth and he has no family, and then he's still working for this white man. And then this white man bought a Pick n Pay before Pick n Pay went public, and he was working at the back cleaning up, and then he used to meet with truck drivers and he would learn all languages, speak all languages with these people. And one of the white people, the manager, then realized that this guy can actually communicate with everyone, it doesn't matter the language. And when he spoke to him in Afrikaans, he responded in clear Afrikaans, and he decided to say, okay, you are now going to work with me as a translator as he takes in all these deliveries and all of that stuff. Eventually he became the manager who does the management of the deliveries and all of that. And when Pick n Pay went public, fortunately for him, he was able to actually become one of the owners of Pick n Pay, and his career just grew from that. So his growth happened from the age of 12 probably to 35, 40, because I actually didn't catch him talking about the age of this man. And this is just to show the process of which, when it comes to bettering your life or when it comes to growing yourself in a career, it takes very long. So I've relayed a story of someone who worked for someone else, who worked in a company and grew to owning shares or owning in this company. But I can relate a story to something that is a bit more relatable, and in this sense I'm going to relate my own story, and I'll just insert a video of how I started out. So right now, check this out. I'm in my tattoo shop. It's fucking big, let me show you. It's so big. Like, I'm walking in. I'm at the door, coming back now. And there's still space going forward. It has its own toilet. right? But if you notice where I started off, that space was actually smaller than a toilet. And was it smaller than a toilet? Yeah, it was a bit smaller than a toilet because it was so tiny, and I had to make it work for me, for my customers. And sometimes I would see that when the customers come in, they're not so comfortable with the space that I'm working in. I'm working in a hair salon. There's hair being done, there's barbers who are cutting hair, and there I am with a very tiny space, hustling within that space and trying to grow my business. And I went from that space to the next salon. Obviously, the space was a bit bigger, not that big, but just a bit bigger. And went from there, I was like, you know what, this of working in these salons is not working for me, because I pay rent to these people and also pay rent at my own apartment. So I moved the business and I worked from my apartment, and from my apartment I moved back home and I was working in a back room. From working in a back room, I found myself again out of Benoni all the way to Soweto for the first time, having my own office space. It was fucking huge, but business was slow there for me. So I moved to Braamfontein, and then I was in an office again within a building, not in a shop. Business was very slow for me. I moved out of that shop to Newtown into a shop, but unfortunately I moved into a shopping center that is dead quiet when you go inside. Outside is very active, but inside is dead quiet. And I chose the space inside because it was a bit cheaper in comparison to all the other spaces. But obviously there was a bad decision, and I found myself having to move back all the way to Benoni, to this space that I'm in right now. All of this happened in the space of 5 years. But if we look at my years before this 5 years of me being a tattoo artist, I was before that a full-time photographer. And before me being a full-time photographer, I didn't have a camera for me to work with. So what did I do in order for me to actually get to having my first camera? Well, the first one was gifted to me by a friend, and then I lost that camera in a crime, because South Africa, you know. So I had to start over. As I'm starting over, I actually don't have the funds to buy a new camera. I had a leaf rake and I had a shovel, and I was renting a room, and I had to make the leaf rake and the shovel work for me. It didn't really work out so great because it was very uncomfortable, and the money that I was making was absolutely unsustainable. So I got myself a job. The first job I worked after realizing that all of that I'm trying is unsustainable was working for a debt collection company in a call center. And unfortunately, they were only paying by commission. Commission. It's not like it was sales. I was getting paid commission to basically get people to sign a Section 53 or as a Section 58 document. And most of the cases that we worked with were from African Bank. And then I realized that, nah, this is not going to work for me. So from that, I got another job. That job was again in a call center, and at least there I had a basic salary, which was 3,500, which I had never seen 3,500 coming to me every single month before that, you know. And when I saw this 3,500 rand, I thought, yo, man, I'm making a lot of money. But I stayed in Naledi, Soweto, and the office that I was working for was all the way in Bramley, so I had to catch 2 taxis. And needless to say, I spent a lot of the money on my rent and traveling and the little bit of food that I could get. But at this time now, I have my own camera. I saved up as much as I could, and fortunately for me, my mother was actually able to assist me to get a camera. So this is something that I think we should all strive for, being able to help our children to actually grow their careers, because there's a big difference between somebody who starts from zero with nothing and somebody who starts from zero, but at least they have parents who can somewhat support their dream or support their future career, right? So moving from that, I worked at another company and I was doing marketing at that company. And with that marketing knowledge that I got from that company, it allowed me to get another contract job as a freelancer for another marketing company. And all these jobs actually were something that allowed me to be able to, number one, speak to people, strangers especially, over the phone or in person, and it allowed me to be able to do that. But on top of that, the marketing jobs actually allowed me to be able to do my own marketing for anything that I venture into. And by this time, man, I had some really good equipment. And then again, South Africa, crime happened, and I lost all of the equipment, unfortunately. But at least I had my knowledge and I had the tenacity to keep on working, right? So Lockdown comes in, I don't have anything to do. A friend of mine says, yo, let's try this tattoo thing. I tried the tattoo thing and I realized that there is potential for me to actually make a living out of this. And here we are right now, I'm making a living out of tattooing, and this is not the end of the road for me. The end of the road for me is when I pass on. And this is just the beginning. I think if there's 10 steps, I'm only on step number 1 of my growth in my career. I'm not going to be a tattoo artist for the rest of my life, all the way to number 10 step. But what I'm doing now has allowed me the ability to actually get into step number 2. Whatever I decide that I'm going to invest in time, when I can actually afford to do those things, will happen. And someone might listen to this and think to themselves, well, that sounds like it's a long process, way too long for my liking. And unfortunately, the reality is, for most of us South Africans, black South Africans and colored South Africans, even Indian and few white people, the journey from you starting from 0 to 1 all the way to 10 or 100 is going to be very long, it's going to be very difficult, but you always have to keep in mind that it is actually possible for those things to happen. And you always have to keep in mind that you just have to strive on. You know, hard work actually does pay off. And if you are somebody who goes to the gym, sort of like me, look at this, it's taken me 6-7 years to build this. And you see, if you look at it that way, that okay, if I want to build muscle, I have to go to the gym consistently, eat well enough for me to actually build that muscle. And it doesn't just happen all like that in 1 year. It takes 7 years, it takes 10 years to actually look like the dream physique that I want. The same actually applies to your career. Some people are approaching their careers through education and then getting a job and then keep on getting educated, furthering their studies, and keep on climbing the corporate ladder, maybe becoming a partner, maybe becoming a CEO, CFO, or somebody in a higher position. And once they are in that higher position, understanding the industry that they are working in, eventually maybe start their own business or invest in the same business that they are in and keep on growing themselves financially. But if you look at all of these things, they take very, very long. Very few people are going to get help from the government. There's a lot of people that get, not too many, but there's people that get help from the government to grow their businesses or advance their careers. But the majority of us, it's not going to happen that way, because you don't have connections, because even if you don't have connections, you can't afford to pay bribes, because fucking hell, SA, corruption. So what are you going to do? Because you can't afford corruption. You can't afford to get in those doors because you don't know people. So the best thing that you can do is just work hard for as long as it possibly requires you to work hard and get to where you need to get. And just follow people like myself and people who have actually done it and who are doing it on a daily basis. And you just never give up. This is not motivation. This is really just a mindset thing. Always keep your eye on the goal, red eyes on the prize, and eventually you should be able to get to that goal. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation. I'll see you in the next one. Salute.